What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to go over 13 upcoming games in 2024 that still do not have release dates. We did this a little while ago, I think, with maybe only like 5 or 6 games. There's quite a few now as the clock is ticking. We got 6 months left in the year, and they're all supposed to come out this year, so they are running out of time to give dates, and we'll go through one by one, also the ones that I think might get delayed into next year, because I will be honest, I don't think all of these games are going to make it. So let's start with the one that I got to be real, I've given up almost entirely on in terms of I don't think it's coming out this year. There's a 50-50 shot it comes out even in general. The Wolf Among Us 2. We've talked about this every time we've done a video like this. The game's supposed to come out this year, just like it was supposed to come out last year. The longer it goes, and again, all of these games are running out of time. This game in particular, I think, is running out of time. So again, this one is first because I don't think this game comes out this year. And at this point, I'm getting very, very concerned that this game is still in the works even at all. Okay, next up is Until Dawn. So this is one that I'm actually kind of surprised. There's a few of these games that were just shown, like recently in the last couple of weeks, that were not given dates, but were kind of doubled down on for, hey, it's coming out in the fall, or hey, it's coming out in the holiday, which holiday, end of November, early December, that's kind of it. And then you have, 2025. So again, they're all pushed up to it. Until Dawn was just recently shown. Still looks good. I'm still very excited for it. Until Dawn is one of my favorite games of all time, one of my favorite horror games as well. And I would have liked to have seen something to match the original Until Dawn. That game came out in the end of August. I don't think that's going to happen here. It'll be interesting to see about October, because I think October, clearly makes sense, but there's a little well-known game called Silent Hill 2, right? And that kind of comes out right in the middle, I think October 11th or something. So for Until Dawn, both are PlayStation, but one is like really PlayStation Until Dawn, but they're working with Konami with Silent Hill. It'll be interesting to see if they have these two games come out that close to each other. Okay, next up is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game. This one caught me by surprise. We talked about this a little bit when I did my kind of recaps on Summer Game Fest. It's one of the best games I think that was shown off at Summer Game Fest, and they show it, and it looks incredible, and it's a good amount of stuff. Like, it's not the longest trailer of all time, but they give you a lot of details. It's the Scott Pilgrim and, Shredder's Revenge type game. I'm so excited for it. It came out of left field, and then it looks done. It looks like the game is, ready to rock. You could release it next week, and they don't give, anything on it. So I hope this game can fit in the fall. I feel like this one would be more likely than some of the other ones. It's just a sense. I don't know it for sure, but, watching the trailer, I'm sure I'm showing it in parts right now. The game looks done. The game looks like you could release it tomorrow. So I don't know why there was no date. It kind of worries me that there was no date, but I'm going to hold out hope that this game is still coming out this year. Okay, next up is A Quiet Place. So this was a game that was, announced a while ago, and I was one of the only people, I looked this up, fun fact, on YouTube. I was one of the only ones that made a video on the Quiet Place game. So just recently, they showed a new trailer for it. Looks pretty solid. I feel like it's going to be a little bit more of like an indie type thing. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not the longest game of all time, maybe a little rough around the edges, but with a solid concept. It feels like that type of game. Showed it, and coming out again in the fall or 2024, but nothing else. Another one that I think, well, the interesting thing is you got the prequel movie, right, coming out. I think it's coming out on my birthday, June 28th, and then the game is going to be the fall, obviously, but again, we talk about Until Dawn, Silent Hill. Does that appear in October? Any horror game does make sense to come out in October. Obviously, they all can't come out then, but I do think, again, Quiet Place, you probably want it to release as close to the movie as possible, which means as soon as possible. So, if you can do a July or an August or a September, that would be what I would, imagine they would want. Okay, then we have Lego Horizon, another kind of oddball one that we knew leading up because of all the leaks, but, shown off, looks really good. I'm really impressed by it. And actually, I'm recording this after the Nintendo Direct, and if you check some of the sites that kind of keep track of when these games are coming out, well, they keep saying holiday, but I did see a couple, and I don't know maybe if it was a mistake or not, December. Again, when you say holiday, and not all these games said holiday, right? Only a handful. And holiday does mean that Black Friday period to early December. Lego Horizon, I think, is in that, ballpark. I would imagine, because it's PlayStation, because it's coming out on Switch, I imagine they want it to come out before Black Friday, before the holidays, because people are still buying the Switch. People are obviously still buying PS5, right? And you want that game alongside it, during that period. would it kill them to release it, in early December? There's been plenty of games that have come out, Just Cause has kind of historically come out then. You can go back to like the Smash Bros of the world. There's a lot of games that have come out in early December and been quite fine, right? They've done quite well. But I just imagine, because this is a more kid-like game, family type thing, well, family, Christmas, holidays, Black Friday, you get the Switch, you get a Lego Horizon with it, that kind of mentality. So I think probably middle to late November for this one, but still one that doesn't have a date. Then we have the casting of Frank Stone, another game that, is kind of quietly there. It gets updates, I guess, here and there, but, we're approaching the end of 2024. The game's coming out. It's bumped Directive 8020 right out of the way, and still nothing. Again, Halloween. Now, here's one thing you can say, I think, with this game versus the other horror games we've talked about. Although it's horror, and although October then makes sense again, right, naturally, we have the background of Supermassive, and they kind of are wild. They've released games in October before. They've released games in August before. They kind of, it seems like, they don't really care when the game comes out. It can come out anytime between that August to November period. Again, I would assume sometime around October, but, they've done both ways, both extremes, after and before October. Next up is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. This was one that probably, I mentioned games that were shown recently that I kind of just couldn't believe, you didn't give a release date for. There's some Xbox ones coming up, but specifically Kingdom Come, that was a big one. Watching Summer Game Fest, it appears that we knew it was going to be there, right? And it looks so complete. It looks really good. I mean, I never connected too much with the first game just because of how complicated or complex that game is. But I am looking forward to the second one. And it just felt like it was going to get the date, right? Like you already showed it once, then you show it again at Summer Game Fest, and then you don't drop a date with it. So again, we're not at the point, like only a couple of these games so far have I said, like I think being delayed, right? Really, Wolf Among Us probably being the only one, maybe Power Rangers. This one is another one I don't feel like worried about in any way, but I feel probably November. This is probably one that, is not the first half of the fall, let's say. It's probably the second half going into the holiday. That's what I think for Kingdom Come. Okay, then we have, and we're going to do these kind of together, back to back, the Xbox games. So Avowed and Indiana Jones. Both in a similar situation, maybe slightly different. So Avowed seems like it's first, right? And Avowed even had, I believe it was published, like a release date for that game, and then they pulled it back, and, they said they still haven't decided on a date. It seems like mid-November. Avowed feels like a mid-November game. That was the rumor, or, I think it was like November 14th or something like that, right in the middle of the month. So that one feels right, because you also have Stalker 2 that's coming out very early September, right? So you got September, November. Indiana Jones, Indiana Jones has not been showed off as much as Avowed. Avowed got that like 27-minute, breakdown thing. Indiana Jones, it got the lengthy cinematic, you still get some gameplay. That one has always been holiday. Now, again, as I've kind of alluded to, there are some games here that I think might not make it. If there was one that besides Wolf Among Us, which could just be canceled, Indiana Jones is that one. That if there's one game that's going to not make it and be delayed into 2025, but early, January, February, I think it's Indiana Jones. I'm holding out hope that it's like December. I think it's a December game. It either is the first 10 days of December or it's coming out maybe like late January. That's 1,000% my prediction for Indiana Jones. Now we have a VR game, one that I kind of forget about just because, again, I don't have the VR system, so it's not like right away in my head, but it's Batman Arkham Shadows. So game looks great, trailer looked great, pictures look, the game's looking good. And honestly, because it's not so much like in my head, like first thing, I thought it had a date, and I was actually kind of surprised to look back at, making my list of games that don't have it and seeing it and saying, oh shoot, they never gave a date for that game. Now this game, I think in particular, maybe Kingdom Come as well, but I know for a fact this game is also going to be at Gamescom. Gamescom is definitely that last wave, right? Whatever's not shown off at the THQ, showcase, or, a lot of these middle tier type games, not all of them are middle tier, but a lot of these games I imagine have to show up at Gamescom or have to do like their own blog or trailer or whatever to give a date. And so Gamescom, I think, is kind of like that last bastion of it. But I do think that's where we'll see, Arkham Shadows date. And again, I think October, November, we're probably, because we haven't gotten that date yet, we're probably looking at like the second half of the fall, like some of these other games. Okay, next is Dragon Age: The Veilguard. This one I would have also said with Indiana Jones that I felt it was very possible it gets pushed, but with the amount, 20 minutes of gameplay, right? With the amount of gameplay shown, the doubling down, like we first I think saw 2024, then you do the gameplay, you say 2024. It really feels like EA, I mean obviously, it feels like EA wants it this year. So I feel like, no, okay, if there was a game that was going to be delayed, but the publisher really wanted them to rush it out and get it out for the fall, you could maybe, like Spider-Man 2, there was a lot of evidence that maybe Sony tried to rush them to get it out, in the holiday season. I feel that same way for Dragon Age. Now, that could be a good or a bad thing, but that's just the sense I get, where this is probably a late November, early December. Same with Indiana Jones. It's probably a game that comes out the very last second of the year, or it gets pushed. With Indiana Jones, I feel like there would be more leeway from Xbox to delay it. With Dragon Age, I feel like there would not be that leeway. And Inquisition also came out in December, I think mid-December, maybe like December 10th-ish. So they've had history. In fact, the last Dragon Age game did it. So that's what I think. I think the Veilguard probably comes out very, very beginning of December, or it gets delayed. Okay, two more, second to last. Epic Mickey. Now, the reason I was kind of debating of even putting this on here because, I mentioned Gamescom and I mentioned the THQ showcase. They're showing Epic Mickey at the thing. So honestly, I mean, we can make predictions all day long. Month and a half from now, we'll absolutely, because it's confirmed to be there. So they'll show more of it. The game already looks great. I'm very excited that they're bringing it back, and I hope we get a Epic Mickey 3 from it. But that's where I think you get the release date for it. To give a prediction, I'll still say I feel like a lot of these games are going to be like very second half of October, like late October / all of November. So I'll say Epic Mickey is also that. And the final game is Lost Records Bloom and Rage. This is one that I would also feel if I were to make like a top 3 of this list, right, of games that could get delayed, this would probably be in that list. Don't Nod with this game has always been pretty hesitant to kind of nail it down. Like, we always get Q4, we always get end of the year. I think holiday might have been said for this game, by them as well. Not 100% sure. Don't quote me on it. But this is a game that I've always felt they're trying. They want it out this year, and it would be. And we've talked about it. Like, to have Life is Strange, and then the developers of the original 2 Life is Strange game make almost a spiritual successor of Life is Strange thing. To have those 2 games come out like within a month of each other would be wild. Like, that would be like a Life is Strange's fan, right, for the fall. But Bloom and Rage just feels like one that they want. And again, late November, early December. But this is one that I feel could be pushed if they feel like they can't get it out in time. So there you go. There's the list. Hopefully we get at least, honestly, let's get like 10 of these. 10 of the 13. I feel like that's pretty good. Wolf Among Us, no way in hell. Even if we lose like an Indiana Jones or a Bloom and Rage, or, you lose maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 at the most. But I think the rest of them come out this year. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. And I hope to see you all on the next one.